Welcome to Mega Wellness Summit. I'm your host, Nikki Jensen. Today I'm speaking with the very talented Sara Vance, someone who I admire very much, and I've sat with and talked with her on a few occasions, and I have heard her story. And this woman is seriously changing lives every single day. Sara Vance is a nutritionist, a mom of two, and the author of The Perfect Metabolism Plan, a sought-after speaker and media personality. Sara is a regular guest on popular Fox 5 San Diego morning show. She has filmed the GaiaMTV Kids yoga videos and has made several appearances on ehow.com. Sara offers cooking classes, corporate and group nutrition programs. She also loves to work with kids, and she does sports nutrition lectures and school assemblies. Welcome, Sara Vance. Hi, Sara. How are you?
Hi, Nikki. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my gosh. I am so excited to talk to you because we are talking about metabolism today. And
Yep.
I am really excited about your book because The Perfect Metabolism Plan. Now, we, I think, have been so confused about this whole metabolism thing. I mean, what the heck is a metabolism anyways?
You know, it's a great question. And I think, yeah, I agree. So many people have been confused. I've been confused in the past as well. You know, that's really my main motivation. I had to write the book was to get good information finally in people's hands and help them to understand what is a metabolism and how can we get control of that. Because I think, you know, the word metabolism is a very hot word right now. It's sort of being thrown around. And there's a lot of things that we just don't understand about it. You know, a lot of people think, well, I'm stuck with this metabolism. When I hit 40, my metabolism is just going to come to a screeching halt, and there's really nothing that I can do about it, so I'm just going to have to live with it. And it's really not the case. I mean, you know, our metabolism does slow down as we get older, but it has a lot to do with the lifestyle changes we're making along the way. And basically, you know, my book, The Perfect Metabolism Plan, isn't a diet. It's more of a tool to help people understand how to transform their health. And, you know, one of the things about our metabolism is it has so many different factors that play into it because our metabolism is responsible. Our weight is just one symptom, one small symptom of all of the symptoms of an imbalanced metabolism. Our metabolism is responsible for delivering energy into our cells. It has a part in digestion and reproduction and recovery. And so, you know, it's a very big picture thing. And what happens is when you reset the metabolism at the foundation by lining up all these different factors, you can not only get control of your weight, but you can change so many other things, you know, in your life. And so that's why my Perfect Metabolism Plan actually started out as a group cleanse program a few years ago. But as I was putting the program together, I realized, you know, so people might have come to me wanting to lose 5 pounds or 10 or 15 or more, but some people didn't want to lose any weight at all. They wanted to just feel better. They wanted to just kind of, you know, get rid of the foggy brain or to sleep better. And what happened was I kept coming back to the metabolism. You know, I realized people didn't want to just feel better for 3 weeks. They wanted to change their life. They wanted transformation. And so I knew I had to educate them about how to do that. And some of it is some detective work, you know. You have to kind of figure out by putting all these different things together what is going on.
Thank you. And we talked about, or in the book it talks about 10 proven keys for fixing or resetting your metabolism. Now, metabolism, is that referring to, because people say, I have a slow metabolism. Why would somebody say I have a slow metabolism or I have a fast metabolism?
Well, you know, a lot of metabolism is responsible for, you know, how quickly we're, you know, creating and using energy and digestion and detoxification and elimination of waste and cellular repair. And it also is responsible for how, you know, quickly, you know, we're burning and utilizing the calories that we're eating. And so we definitely will have variances between people and how you have one person that can take a bite of a piece of cake and it seems to make them to gain weight, whereas someone could eat, you know, 3 or 4 pieces. And so there is variance from person to person with their metabolism, but it's not just something that, we're stuck with. We do have control. And so what I did was break this down into 10 different keys because we need to deal with all of these different things to fix the metabolism.
Okay.
Ranging from
tell
sugar.
me those 10 different keys. I'm excited about that.
Okay. So the first one is to break up with sugar or to get control of our blood sugar. That one is essential. The next one is fixing your fats, so really understanding, that's chapter 2, fixing your fats, understanding what are healthy fats, what are the fats we want to avoid. And chapters 1 and 2 really go together. Then we've got to heal our gut. Gut is our foundation of our health. I think that's one of the big trends for 2015. Everybody's going to be hearing about the microbiome. It's a big trend in 2014. So chapter 4 is identifying our food intolerances. There's a lot of hidden things that could be causing people to just feel tired, just not healthy and fatigued and puffy, and it can be causing us to store fat. Toxins is another one. When our bodies are overwhelmed by toxins, it can cause the body to store more fat, and that fat's more difficult to lose. Inflammation is another one of the keys. We've got to really get control of that if we want to have a healthy metabolism. A really big one is stress. I think, a lot of times people have no idea the impact that stress really has on our weight and our metabolism and our health. And then just as far as the convenience foods, our bodies are really craving nutrients. And if we're putting in a lot of these foods that are lacking of nutrients and high calorie dense and full of sugar and additives and chemicals and all those things, that's really creating issues in our metabolism too. And then another really obvious one that, everybody knows that we need to do, but we're not practicing enough is, when we're dehydrated, it just creates a cascade of problems.
What gets to your cells really quickly to hydrate?
Well, there's a number of different things. One thing is just thinking about eating more plant-based foods. That's going to be hydrating to the body. It's going to have electrolytes, and minerals, and vitamins. And so just by increasing our intake of plant-based foods, we're going to start to improve our hydration. But most people are just not simply drinking enough water. We're drinking dehydrating things like coffees and sodas, and we're taking in dehydrated processed foods and things like that. And so that, just basic, simple things like drinking enough water. You can add coconut water is another thing I love to do. I do like to put some of that in my smoothie because it does add some electrolytes and minerals. And there is a little bit of sweetness to the smoothie, natural sweetness in there. But yeah, it's just some of these things are super basic. It's just we need that reminder. Just drink more water throughout the day.
Okay. And the last one that you mentioned?
It's just exercising smarter because there's really two ends of the spectrum there. We all know that not exercising enough is terrible for the metabolism, and there's a lot of new research that's come out about how damaging sitting is for our body. I mean, to the point where if we sit for extended periods of time, no amount of exercise and nutrition can actually undo it. They call it sitting kind of the new smoking. They say it's one of the worst things we can do for our health, and it's definitely very hard on the metabolism. But there's also the other end of the spectrum where a lot of people, and this is where people can get very frustrated. We're in the gym, we're working out harder and harder and harder and harder and just storing more and more fat in our midsection. And so what happens is when we're doing too much of, especially cardio, really intense cardio, that causes our body to be in a state of stress. It raises our cortisol levels, which tells our body to store fat in the midsection. For almost 20 years, I was a group exercise instructor, and I used to think, the harder I made people sweat and the harder we work out for an hour and 15 minutes, the better. And really more and more research is pointing to the fact that that is not the right approach for the metabolism. Things like yoga that make us lower our stress levels are good things to kind of mix in there. High interval intensity training. For someone who's healthy enough, obviously you need to make sure that you're healthy enough to do some kind of high interval stuff. But when you're doing the short bursts of cardio mixed in with recovery and weights and that kind of thing, one of the reasons why I wrote this book was because I've felt like there's just so much bad information out there, and I believed a lot of these kind of what I call diet myths. I start out in the book talking about 8 different common myths. I believe them all. And I think really dispelling these myths and then putting the good information in people's hands to help them really get control of what's going on.
What is one myth that you think is really prevalent right now?
Well, one most definitely is calorie counting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always say that calorie counting is a good exercise to keep your brain sharp, but it's not really good for weight loss, because the thing about calories is they're not all equal. I mean, I used to, it sounds good mathematically, right? If you burn off more calories than you take in, then you'll lose weight. It makes sense. But the problem is we are unfortunately not calculators. Our bodies are much more complicated than that. A carb calorie is processed differently than a fat calorie in the body. And even within carb calories, you've got the slow carbs and the fast carbs. And then on top of all that, you could have metabolic issues like insulin and leptin resistance that can further complicate the whole way that body is processing calories. So, for example, if you've got insulin or leptin resistance, you're not going to be processing carb calories the same as someone who doesn't have that. So again, I think, the problem is we believe these things. We're told this is how you're going to become healthy. This is how you can manage your weight. And then what happens? We get frustrated. We feel like a failure because we're not doing it. That's the thing that makes me want to really say, okay, you're not a failure. Your diet is, or this approach is what failed you. Following all these kind of myths and creating this feeling of guilt and, oh, I'm a failure. I don't have enough motivation, or I don't have enough willpower to make it stick, making people just feel bad about themselves and falsely, kind of blaming themselves. That's why I wanted to really kind of set the record straight. These things aren't the path to health and a healthy weight. Really what you need to do is reset the metabolism.
And you mentioned in the book that you compared counting calories to putting a broken arm in a sling. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I love analogies. But, both things are temporary solutions that basically just ignore the underlying problem. So, for example, if you broke your arm, obviously you're going to be in pain, and putting it in a sling might take you out of pain for a little while because it's going to isolate that arm. If you take it out of that sling, the underlying problem hasn't been fixed. The broken arm hasn't been reset. And so, in fact, you could actually make it worse because it could be healing incorrectly. And the exact same thing is true about dieting and calorie counting. They're just temporary measures. They work basically as long as your willpower can stand. And I think that's why so many of us experience yo-yo weight loss and gain, because we're really just targeting one little piece of the pie. It's our weight. That's just one symptom of an underlying issue in the metabolism. And when we can really get to the root of the problem, which is that metabolism, that's when it almost becomes effortless. I know it's hard for a lot of people who are struggling to think that, gosh, you could literally just walk by that cake and just have no desire when your metabolism is out of that sugar burning mode and into the fat burning mode. And you're really, once you can change that metabolism, things just tend to line up and come into balance.
So a couple of things. When we get older, right, you had mentioned this earlier, we all think that our metabolism is going to slow down as we age. Is there any truth to that?
Well, yeah, there is truth to it. And some of it is just a factor of age. Some of it's a factor that we're less active. Mm-hmm. And so our metabolism is going to slow down because of that. A lot of it has to do with what we're eating, the stress in our lives. So again, it's when you go back to those 10 keys and you start to look at all those different things, over time, because of what we're eating, our bodies become less able to process sugars, and we can become insulin resistance is a very common thing that really has not that many obvious symptoms. And so a lot of Americans are suffering from insulin resistance, but they're not told about it until it gets to the point where they're like pre-diabetic or even diabetic half the time. It's a combination of a number of things. But I mean, for example, when I was younger, I was 12. I actually weighed more than I do now. My metabolism was in worse shape at that age than it is now when I'm 45. I think that what we need to understand is, sure, it is going to slow down a little bit as we age, but how much of that is really factors that are in our control. I think it's a lot more than what people realize. We have a lot more control of our metabolism. There's an interesting documentary that's coming out right now called That Sugar Fix, and it's about this guy that he goes out and eats a whole bunch of, and it's actually not even sugar and sodas and things like that. He eats just a lot of like low-fat, quote-unquote, healthy foods that have, added sugar to it. And I think within like 3 weeks, he gave himself fatty liver disease. I mean, it's, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen very quickly. But so that's the good news, I think, is because it proves to us that this is more in control than a lot of us are thinking it is. It is possible to get back that control that we're all looking for.
So you mentioned sugar in the book. Now, we all know that sugar is bad, right? So there's a ton of sugar in soda. Like Dr. Oz totally blows up all this, that we can't have sugar. But what people don't know is all of the hidden factors, all the hidden things in our food that have sugar.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's interesting because the first main chapter in my book, the first factor in really fixing the metabolism is to break up the sugar. And it's kind of interesting because my editor pushed back on that a little bit. She was kind of like, do we really want to hit them over the head with sugar, like right off the bat? Maybe we should just push it back a little bit in the book. And that was one of the things that I said, you know what? It really has to come first because fundamentally you basically cannot have a healthy metabolism when our blood sugar is out of control. It's just not possible. And so, when we're eating too much sugar and simple carbs, and like you said, we don't even know. That's the thing. We don't even know we're eating too much sugar and simple carbs. Most people, when I talk about, blood sugar being critical to metabolism, like, oh, I don't eat much sugar. Because they're not drinking sodas and eating Twinkies, so they're not eating much sugar. But, the thing is if you're eating any kind of packaged and processed food, you're getting sugar. I mean, even in things you would never expect, like Cheetos has 3 different kinds of sugar in it. So 75% of all packaged foods has added sugar. And so the more packaged foods we're eating, we're basically telling that manufacturer, okay, well, you're deciding for me how sweet I want my foods. Whereas if you're making food yourself, you can decide if you want to make it sweet or if you don't want to make it sweet. But that's the problem is we're getting too much sugar, just sneaking into our diet. And it's addictive. I mean, it's basically as addictive as a drug. The studies show that it lights up those same areas in our brain that cocaine does. I mean, so, again, it's one of that terrible cycle. And another reason why Americans are getting too much sugar is it's not even sugar itself. It's those high glycemic foods because, like, for example, I talk about this in my book a lot because pretzels was kind of what I call one of my sugars. Pretzels is a low sugar food. It's got like 1 gram of sugar in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not sugar. Well, guess what?
On the package, it looks like that.
Yeah. Well, the body converts it to sugar very quickly because there's no fat, fiber, or protein. That's my rule of 3.
So if you're eating pretzels and sardines, that would kind of complement. Have you ever heard pretzels with sardines? I don't know if a lot of people eat that anymore, but
combination.
But
I love sardines. Are a great food. They're like a perfect food.
I know, right? But if you're eating pretzels with sardines, you have the protein with the carb, which is going to slow down that sugar, right?
Exactly. That's what my rule of 3 is. So the rule of 3 basically is I tell people, here's the thing. You've got to, every time you eat, you want to at least have one of the 3, and even better if you can have more than 3 of these things. Fat. So this is one of the biggest misunderstandings in the area of nutrition. It's fat. That's chapter 2 in my book. You have to be getting enough healthy fat to regulate your hunger hormones. So fat, fiber, and then protein. So any one of those 3 things are going to, like you said, level out your blood sugar. So if you're pairing the pretzels with sardines, which you've got healthy fat and protein in that, that's going to level it out. I like to use the example of apple. So if you drink 8 ounces of apple juice, that's 7 grams. Sure, that's natural sugars, but 7 grams of sugar, that's not going to give you lasting energy. It's just going to spike your blood sugar, which makes you hungry in about 20 minutes, and you come crashing down. But if you eat the whole apple, you're getting fiber with it. Well, let's slice it up and put some almond butter on it. You've got the magic 3 there. You've got fat, fiber, protein. all three of those. So what the apple with the almond butter is going to stay with you longer. It's going to keep your blood sugar more level. It's going to keep your hunger hormones in check. So whereas if you drink that apple juice, you're going to be starving and hungry the rest of the morning, and you're going to be snacking, like eating handfuls of pretzels after handfuls of pretzels.
We're just throwing off
that's
metabolism.
Really where, just very simple things like that, really thinking about trying to keep that blood sugar level just by getting one of those three things every single time you eat.
Okay.
And one of the key ones is fast. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that people are really not.
And afraid of. Fat is bad. We're still in the low-fat mindset.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. I think that's going to be another one of the big trends for 2015 is we saw the beginnings of it in 2014 with the curl of butter on Time magazine. It was like in August this year or something like that. So funny when that came out because I was like, oh my gosh, this whole article was so much like my chapter 2 in my book that I'd written. And it's basically, we've all gotten to this state of poor blood sugar control because for so many years we've been told that fat is bad for us.
Since the 70s and 80s when all the low fat, the devil's food was coming out. Remember those? People love those. Oh, I can eat these. This is low fat.
Yeah,
no fat.
I remember as a kid, I loved to bake cookies, and all of a sudden the margarine came out. I mean, that's a stick of trans fat. That there couldn't be a worse substitute for butter,
Trans fat is what?
I talk about this. One of the things we need to think about when we're choosing our fats in the book is we want to avoid damaged fats. Trans fats are basically fats that have been damaged in manufacturing. They're partially hydrogenated, which, I mean, even the government is saying these things are bad for us. They're linked to disease, heart disease, many different things, and so we want to reduce them and eventually eliminate them from the diet. But so damaged fats are an issue. Trans fat is one example. Like, polyunsaturated fats are unstable fats, things like canola, soy, those things. And those are easily damaged just even from processing. So when you buy them on the shelf, they may already be a damaged fat because they've been heated in processing or, a lot of them are genetically modified and those kinds of things. So my favorite fats are basically grass-fed butter, and it's a more stable fat. So I think about the word saturated as being equivalent to stable. When you have a saturated fat, it's more stable. And the other cool thing about grass-fed butter is it's high in CLA, which is actually fat burning. So some substance a lot of weight lifters have known about for a long time to burn fat. So grass-fed butter or ghee, even better, ghee has the milk solids removed from it. So you're not going to have issues.
Probably nobody has heard of ghee before. So it's G-H-E-E, ghee.
Yes,
and,
ghee.
And so what is ghee?
Ghee is actually just clarified butter. So you just simmer butter for a period of time and you scoop off like the foam that comes on top, and and so it's clarified butter, and it just has the milk solids removed. So it's, for most people, even those who have trouble with lactose, generally most people can handle ghee. So it's more of like an oil. It ends up looking more like an oil than butter. That's another one of my.
And you can buy this at the store, or you make it.
Yeah, you can buy it at most health food stores. You'll find it in the refrigerator section. But the thing I love about ghee is it's shelf stable, so you don't actually really need to keep it in the refrigerator unless you're not going to use it within 3 or 4 months.
I've actually seen ghee at Trader Joe's.
Oh,
right
I think that,
on the shelf.
I think they do carry it. Yeah, so that's a good fat. Avocado is like one of nature's perfect foods. I say eat an avocado a day. You're better off than even eating an apple a day because avocados have healthy fat and they're actually a high fiber food. A lot of people don't know about that.
What about avocado oil?
I love avocado oil. That was actually one of the things I was going to suggest in place of a lot of the vegetable oils. I use avocado oil or olive oil. Avocado oil has an advantage over olive oil in that it can generally be heated to a little bit higher heat. That's another way that we're damaging our fats is you want to know which fats can handle heat. Avocado oil can handle pretty high heat, again, because butter is fairly stable. Ghee can handle an even higher heat because you've removed the milk solids from it. Olive oil you want to keep on like a low to medium because, again, it's a little bit more unstable, and so it can be damaged during cooking. And then if you are going to choose one of the other vegetable oils, you want to keep it limited because those are going to be higher in omega-6s, which tend to promote inflammation. and you want to make sure you're getting like a cold pressed or also organic, especially if you're going to do anything that could potentially be genetically modified. The oils that tend to be genetically modified are cottonseed, soy, corn. So if it says vegetable, it could very well be, and canola. Those are all very highly genetically modified. And so if you think about it, those are the oils that are all being used in all the packaged and processed foods. So, because in the United States we're not labeling genetically modified foods, basically 80% of them or more have GMOs in them. Looking for that, that's just something we need to really start being aware of and thinking about. And, I always say be nutrition detectives. I do a lot of lectures with, kids and school assemblies, and I say, you got to be a nutrition detective nowadays. You've got to be reading those labels and taking responsibility for your health, because our government is not labeling them for us. We've got to have the knowledge, without a doubt. Yeah, I play this kind of fun game with kids where I call it science, experiment, or food. And as adults, we should play this game too, because one of my chapters in my book is about toxic fat. So many of us, obviously our body, it's so funny because I'm a firm believer in kind of supporting the body to detox. And there's been a lot of articles lately written about how, we don't need to detox because the body already has all these things that are detoxing it for us. Well, sure, we've got our liver, which is called the general of the army. That's one of the biggest, organs of detoxification. Our skin is detoxifying. Our kidneys are detoxing. Our lungs, we've got all these different channels. But what happens is we're overwhelming them. That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about teaching kids these lessons about the science, experiment, of the food, because I think some of the most toxic foods on the market are the ones that are specifically targeted at kids. The artificial colors and the MSG and the flavor enhancers and, the preservatives. So what I do with kids is I have a game called Science, Experiment, or Food, where I show them just the ingredients for a food. And I have them say, okay, is this a science, experiment, or food? And you'd be amazed at how many kids actually think Flaming Hot Cheetos is a science experiment. And they just look at the ingredients, and that's just one example of so many different foods where you look at the label and you're like, I don't even know what half these things are. And the things that I do know are, if I underline all the GMO ingredients, they're mostly genetically modified. And then we've got like 4 or 5 different artificial colors, flavor enhancers, preservatives, and MSG. MSG is a perfect example of one of those chemicals that basically is communicating with our body, and it's telling it to store fat. It's what's called an obesogen. And obesogen is a chemical that creates this state of fat storage in our body. And so, when we're giving our kids these foods that have MSG in them and these other chemicals, we're changing their endocrine system. We're effectively changing their metabolism. And at a young age.
Stands for monosodium glutamate. So whenever you see that on the package, that's MSG.
Exactly. Well, and here's the thing. Just like sugar has about 61 different names for sugar, and that's how they're hiding sugar in our foods, MSG also is masked as many other different names, like autolyzed yeast extract, yeah. So they're hiding, that's the thing. These manufacturers are like, oh, well, they're onto us because they know that they should be avoiding sugar, or they know that they should be avoiding these chemicals. So hide them under these different names. So, again, it's not easy to be a nutrition detective. And I think one of the best things to do is just eat less packaged and processed foods and to shop at places like Whole Foods. Like, for example, Whole Foods, when you walk in there, you know that nothing you buy there for your kids is going to have artificial colors. They just don't allow it. Like if you look on their website, they have standards for different things, and there's certain things that they just won't allow in their food. Similar like Jimbo's and other places like that, where
the
that
San Diego base.
Exactly.
Yeah, grocery store, which everywhere nowadays. I used to live in Wisconsin and in the nowhere land, and they still had health food stores, and they still had places that you can go for really clean eating food. So no matter where you live, you can have clean food. You can grow your own garden. However you manage to eat clean, this can be done. Right, Sara?
Well, oh my gosh. And you know what? Even the Walmarts of the world all the standard grocery stores are starting to realize that people are wanting cleaner food. They're wanting to eat healthy.
Yeah.
we had a new Vance move in not too far from my house, and I hadn't shopped there in a long time, and I went over there and checked it out, and I was like, oh my gosh, they have a lot of organics, and the best thing that people can do is to just shop the perimeter of the store, eat less of the processed and packaged things, and then when you do choose to process the packaged foods, just look for the ones that have the shorter ingredient list, that aren't full of foods that, ingredients that look like a science experiment. One of the best things we can possibly do for our health is just get more plant-based foods. That's the thing that, most people don't know that they're supposed to have 9 servings of plant-based foods a day.
Right.
Adults. I had a number of health problems, kind of, it's like the long list of things that are just sort of chronic and unrelated, and you just can't really pin on anything. I mean, almost my entire life, I was kind of felt like I was a little bit of a hypochondriac because I never really felt great. And ear infections, to sore throat all the time, to digestive problems, to foggy brain, the list of things, the achy joints, and had a couple markers for autoimmune disease, and all these things just kept plaguing me, and I couldn't figure out, well, what was it? I just sort of thought, oh, well, that's just my life. I'm just sort of, I remember I used to buy Advil, ibuprofen in bulk at Costco. We'd have one upstairs and one downstairs, and I was just popping that stuff like candy. And I just thought that was just normal, right? And then I started to realize, listen, maybe this isn't the way I need to live. And so I started looking into gluten, and I was like, this is it. I've got celiac disease. And I went and got tested, and the doctor was like, no, you don't have celiac disease. You can eat wheat to your heart's content. So I continued to do that for a couple more years, not realizing that, you can still have problems with gluten without having to have celiac disease. And so it took me at least another year or two before I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop eating this to see what I have, what do I have to lose? And it kind of turned out I had a lot to lose, like foggy brain and aches and pains and, so.
Which people think are normal to live with.
Well, that's the thing. I'd lived with it my whole life. And so it's, I think I had sort of just thought that was how I was supposed to be, and there wasn't really anything I could do about it. And that's the cool thing about taking a nutritional approach, and looking at the body as a whole. Like, that's what I do in my book, is look at the body holistically and synergistically. Like, just calorie counting is like one tiny sliver of, the whole pick, not even one that really even works, but when you look at the body holistically and say, okay, well, let's take a look at potential food intolerances. Let's deal with our stress. That's how it all works. The reason I became a nutritionist was chia seeds. I had been interested in nutrition and wanting to get my certification and study it more, but had just sort of backburnered it for many years and still been trying to figure out my health issues. And I think that's, I think a lot of people go into this field because they have their own health issues, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I've been on the other side. And when I first got introduced to chia seed, I don't know, it was about 6 years ago, I started taking a couple of tablespoons of it, and I just actually took it in water, but now I add it to my smoothie. And after a few weeks of doing that, so many positive things had changed in my health just from that one food. And so I thought to myself, well, my goodness, if I can change all these things, reduce my inflammation, improve my digestion, improve my energy and my mood and my brain function just from this one thing, I have to learn more. I have to learn more about the power of foods. And
right. And isn't that funny that we were actually putting them on those ceramic pets? We were thinking,
oh, I know.
Right? Chia. Remember, that was so prevalent back in, I think, the 90s. And now it's like, no, we need to be eating those seeds.
And they're not for everyone. Some people don't tolerate them well. And if you've got some really serious digestion things going on, it may not be for you until you can heal further. But that's an example of one thing that just helped me and does, I know, help a lot of other people. But just as an example of the power of foods, and then discovering, that I was gluten intolerant and taking that out. And it's so funny because so many people are very resistant to the idea of trying to take gluten out because it's so prevalent in our diet and it's in so much of this comfort food. And the thing about gluten and wheat, you have to look at them together. One of the big things about gluten and wheat is that they're, it's not the same wheat that our grandparents ate. It's really changed. Significantly more gluten in the breads that they're making today. Wheat has these kind of addictive compounds in them that cause us to, want to crave it and eat more of it. And, they're finding that wheat actually, things like wheat bread, we think it's better because it's got fiber in it, but it still is spiking our blood sugar, higher than.
So that's not kind of the fiber
bar.
that you're talking about with the rule of three. You're not really talking about bread fiber.
That's such a great point. I mean, for so many years we had this food pyramid. They were like, you need to get more grains, you need to get more grains. And the foundation of our diet is grains. And that's why a number of years ago they got rid of that and they replaced it with the My Plate. And when you look at My Plate, half of the plate should be filled with plant-based foods. I say if you're not getting half your plate filled with plant-based foods twice a day at least, you're not getting enough. And, I think really, the whole paleo, grain-free thing may not be for everybody, but really looking at how much of these grains and processed wheats and all that are we getting in our diet and really trying to connect some of the chronic symptoms we have to it. And the thing that's really hard about gluten and wheat is it can be delayed. That's one of the more difficult ones to diagnose.
Right.
Because, for example, you could have something with wheat, and immediately your nose starts running. And then okay, well, this is an issue. But there's many people, like my symptoms.
Immediately your nose can start running?
Oh, very common. Immediately.
So that could be a form of a food allergy. That would be like how to help yourself self-diagnose. Something might be going on with the food that you just ate.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I do in my book. I really help people. What we do is we take out the top most likely foods to cause intolerances. And there's a difference between allergy and intolerance. It's a little bit different reaction in the body. Some of the symptoms are similar. But for example, with, gluten and dairy, those are some of the two most common ones. You could have problems the next day or 48 hours even afterwards. And, for example, my symptoms with gluten are more, it's interesting, they're more emotional. If I have my moods will be much more unstable for a number of weeks after eating gluten, or I have chronic aches and pains. And so, a lot of times because we're eating these foods every day, all day long, I think back to how I used to eat. I started my day with cereal or a muffin or something like that, and then went on to a sandwich, and then had pasta for dinner and pretzels for a snack.
Which was good fiber. People, you have to get your good fiber in. Get your carbohydrates for energy. Yeah, exactly.
I thought I was being healthy, but, so the thing is we're eating it all the time. And a lot of times with food intolerances, it's the amount you're getting. We're just overwhelming our bodies with these things and we're eating them all the time. And there's a lot of real kind of issues with what they're doing to the wheat, too. There's a lot of new research that's coming out about how they're dousing it with this pesticide right before harvest. And so maybe it's that we're reacting to. I think there just needs to be a lot more research.
Are you referring to glyphosate?
Yeah. And there are some people that can handle sourdough because it's fermented, or I know people who order their wheat from Europe and have it shipped in because their wheat is different, So I think it's one of those things that, you have to kind of be, a nutrition detective. You have to figure out what works for you, and sometimes it takes a little trial and error, because I don't necessarily think that gluten-free products is necessarily the answer either, because a lot of those will have genetically modified ingredients in them, and they can be just as harmful to the blood sugar as the wheat counterparts, and so I think it's one of those things that every individual has to kind of find that place that works for them, and that their body is kind of in the state of synergy and homeostasis, and it's not something you necessarily will do overnight. So some people find that the paleo or totally grain-free approach works, or maybe that's something you do for a period of time. Or so, one of the things I talk about in my book is a few kind of different things that you can try, some additional things. For example, if you've got autoimmune, that you might want to try going grain-free, or certain other foods, or if you have hypothyroid, you might want to think about avoiding goitropic foods. And so there's a lot of different other things that you can
Goitropic foods, what is that?
So basically they're different foods that can affect the thyroid. So things, and they're healthy foods. Things like kale and cabbages and broccoli, cruciferous vegetables. Those can be, especially when they're raw, in large amounts. And this is one of those things where it's kind of like some people say, oh, I have no problem with this, but then other people say, yes, I feel, there's a difference in my thyroid when I'm eating these things. So the jury's kind of out on this. There's not really a lot of research, but again, each individual can give these things a try. So if you're a big juicer and you're constantly eating tons of raw kale and spinach and cabbage and broccoli, you could try gently cooking those foods, and sometimes that can reduce the effect. So, that's just one example of some other little tweaks and things like that to try.
How are we going to kick our metabolism into high gear?
It's such a great question. I think, and one of the things I think about metabolism is we always think about we want it to be faster, we want it to be working harder, but one of the other things we have to think about is we have to balance it. Everything in our body is about a balance. Like I always kind of compare like stress to like being a hamster running on those hamster wheels. My daughter used to have 2 hamsters, and they would get on that wheel and we had to take the wheel out at night because it would keep her up at night. They're just running like crazy and all this stress. We feel like we're these hamster wheels, but we don't get to, the hamster, when it's not running on the wheel, what is it doing? It's laying in this little pile of hay, sleeping for most of the day. And what's happening is we're like those hamster wheels, but we're never getting off that wheel. And what's that, so we're always thinking about faster, driving things faster and faster. And if we took the time to get off that hamster wheel, to de-stress and decompress, lowering that stress level allows the metabolism to come up. So when we're on that hamster wheel, our digestion goes kind of dormant because we're in a fight or flight situation. We got to get out of that situation. So thinking about de-stressing, that's one major way to kick the metabolism into high gear. Another way is to just making sure that, you're doing the right kind of exercise. So rather than sitting for hours and hours and hours, getting up and just doing a walk at lunchtime, or getting up in between at your desk job every half hour, 45 minutes just to stretch. I mean, studies even show just bending over to tie your shoe is better, I'm not kidding, than sitting for hours on end. And then there's some other little things I have in my book. I've got a chapter on what I call metabolism hacks. And there's and these are a little bit more advanced. Once you've kind of done the basic 10 keys and you've lined them all up, there's some other little things you can try tweaking. Like, for example, a really, I think, a big, trend for 2015 and beyond is this intermittent fasting thing. And that's a way to kind of really hack your metabolism a little bit. So, what you can do is either keep your window of eating in a shorter period of time, like 8 to 10 hours, and then that just makes your fast, overnight fast a little bit longer. Or, you can do occasional fasting. But the thing about that is it's not for people that are in that sugar burning mode. So you got to really get control of your blood sugar first so you can do that. But, so there are other ways to kind of sort of hack into the metabolism. And that's just in one example, doing that intermittent fasting or doing the high intensity training. And again, those are things that you need to be healthy enough to do. So you need to kind of get the basics down before you're going to go into working on some of those other things. But, yeah, so if you've got an event like in 3 days, you could say, okay, I'm just going to do a couple of sessions of intermittent fasting or high-intensity interval training, and that'll just kind of kick the metabolism into gear. But you got to also remember, again, that rest, that de-stressing, and all of that really comes back in the end. So funny because I take yoga regularly, and I look around that yoga room, and people who practice yoga just in general tend to be a healthier weight. And I think a lot of it is, it's not just that yoga is a great exercise, it's that it lowers our stress levels and it makes us more mindful, so we're more connected to how our body's feeling and functioning. We're listening to our body. We're making better choices for it. And so, I think rather than thinking, we got to work out harder and faster, is to really think about how can I dial down that stress and take better care of myself. And, one of the things I say in my book is I say we have to stop trying to lose weight. That was one of the things, as an overweight child, I'd been told for so many years, you have to lose weight, you have to lose weight. And when I did lose weight, I kind of had this idea in myself, it's all about, being skinny. That's health. And what I realized is, it took me years to realize, you know what, that's totally misguided, because you can be a healthy, quote unquote, healthy weight and still have all the markers for metabolic syndrome and all these other things that someone who's overweight has. So really, I think once I figured out, okay, once you start to take care of yourself from the inside out, everything starts to come into balance. So focusing on health and nurturing, and that is when the weight comes into balance, and the sleep and the stress and all of that. So
you are absolutely amazing, Sara. I can't even tell you how grateful I am to have you on the Mega Wellness Summit. You are phenomenal. Now, I just want to ask you a couple ways on how people can get in touch with you. You have rebalancelife.com, right? People can reach out to you, rebalancelife.com. You have programs out there that can help people, right, with their metabolism.
I do.
Your book is coming out March 1st.
Yep, it'll be out March 1st. One of the things that I'm working on is I have a 1-week kind of sugar detox program because that is one of the harder things for people. I'm starting to come out with more e-courses to kind of handhold people with, through some of these more difficult things. For people who are local, I've got, corporate nutrition and group nutrition programs. But I want to be offering more e-courses and just resources online. So that's something that is, I'm going to be coming out with more in 2015. So
for all those people who are listening right now, go onto Sara's website, rebalancelife.com, and check out some of her videos on ehow.com, because she explains some really cool things that you'll get some great advice for. And so thank you so much for being on the call with me today, and I really appreciate all your insight. You're just a gem, really a gem. And I hope that a lot of people find this information helpful and go and buy Sara's book, The Perfect Metabolism Plan. Find it on Amazon. Thank you so much, Sara.
Thanks so much, Nikki. So happy to be here today.